British banknotes go wild and woke. Welcome to Mark and Pete, where we talk today about replacing people with nature and animals and all things nice. Yes, this is Mark and Pete, two blokes with half an opinion. Now, here's our first thought.
New grisly notes. All things bright and beautiful, all currency notes great and small, all things wild and wonderful, the Lord God invested in them all. Each little wallet that opens, each little note that sings, he made the printed colours, he made tiny purse strings. All things bright and beautiful, all currency notes great and small, all things wild and wonderful, the Lord God spent them all. Well,
Amen.
as we can tell, indeed. Yes, you can probably gather that we're in a sort of a saintly mode. Why is that? We've changed our tunes. Has British banknotes really now started to take on a new colour? Well, some people might say that this is a rather sinister move. Yes, British wildlife will now replace historical figures on the next series of the Bank of England notes. Why? Well, many people have said that it's possibly contentious having historical figures. Mr. Pete, I would say that maybe this is probably a bad move, but putting little animals on them, is that something that now really could be slightly offensive for those who do not want animals depicting their nation on a 5, 10, 20 and £50 note?
Yes, there is that, and there's which people have been replaced by which animal. That some political commentators, Nigel Farage, a leader of the Reform UK party, he was talking in response to this about Winston Churchill being replaced by a beaver. I'm just paraphrasing him, which that's quite amusing. I thought Ed Davey, the Liberal Democrat leader, he suggested Winston Churchill be replaced by a badger. I thought beaver was funnier, but the point being made is that why have an animal instead of a figure from British history who is much admired? And the reason why is, of course, we would say, because the people are more controversial in themselves. But I'm just pointing out that which person you replace by said animal could in itself offend people. I don't think they're going to be able to escape offending people.
Well, I think that my view is this, that I don't have a problem per se with animals. I think depicting them can look very colourful. The irony is that some people say, for the key driver behind this, is that actually some ways it can actually increase, the idea of sort of security. I mean, the idea that some of the colours, some of the typography, even some of the line work could make it a little bit more enriched to make it harder to do any counterfeit. But coming back to the big picture, which is, yes, removing historical figures, well, we should surely be proud of our historical figures, shouldn't we? I mean, okay, you mentioned Winston Churchill, Shakespeare, for example, other people from science and technology who've really helped this country to sort of get to where it is today, or where it was, maybe. But the fact of the matter is that, we should sort of glorify their achievements rather than try and hide them. Now, maybe this is just a reflection of the way the world is. Let's be honest, Mr. Pete, the Bank of England has the right to change this. This isn't necessarily something that, is necessarily mandatory. So do you feel that they're just pandering to whims of today?
I think they were caught in this position because we started putting pictures of people on the banknotes, much as you already did on coins. I think it was back in the 70s the Queen first started to feature on a banknote. But then since then, as you're pointing out, they have historical figures. Isaac Newton featured, of course, representing science, Winston Churchill, I guess leadership and literature. Jane Austen was on, I think.
Oh, yes.
And so you've got a few figures that tell a story of science, literature, leadership of the nation. Doesn't quite work the same way with animals, but there's not really any reason not to. You could, in fact, go very patriotic with it, couldn't you? You could have a lion, or you could have a British bulldog. So
Yes.
you could go, it could go the very British route and celebrate the nation, or celebrate particular animals, which I suppose would make the point. But I think you pointed out in your intro that uh, it's going to be put to the people. There's going to be some sort of vote
Yes,
on it. Is that right?
there will be a vote and people will have the choice. Now, of course, some people might like the idea of a dog, a cat, a mouse, and a whatever. I have a slightly different view. Why can't we have, say, for example, a Teletubby or a Womble? I mean, for me, that sort of brings the British humour to the
Yeah.
surface. I mean,
Yes.
look, at the end of the day, I don't really mind what's on there because at the end, you would, you use the currency for what it is. But to me, I think you get a sense of pride when you see something that might make you smile. And I can't think of anything better than having something there that, yeah, sort of glorifies the creativity of this nation. So what say you about maybe more creative depictions?
I like the creative angle. What I'm against is getting people to vote on it. If you remember, that
Ah,
boat that was going on the
yes.
expedition was
Boaty
named by the
McBoatface.
public Boaty
That's it.
McBoatface. Yes, I fear that if we go that route, we're going to have that sort of that sort of response. Maybe
Right.
have a squirrel displaying his nuts, that sort of thing, on your
Yes. Well, there you go.
on your banknote. And a squirrel does not build a nation. Let's put it like that. So we don't really want to go that route. I think I'm all for doing this and making changes, having different things on the notes. I actually think it's a great idea. I don't know that going the supposed safe route of wildlife is necessarily the right thing, but it doesn't have to stay forever. We can try something else with the next round of printing. So
Well,
I think it's not a completely a bad story. It's just disappointing that the reason appears to be a slightly woke fear of offending people.
yes.
But overall, it's a good idea. Let's have a bit. Let's ring the changes of our banknotes and make them look more interesting because, after all, they go quickly enough.
Yes. Well, here's another thought. Why don't we just simply change the currency denomination? I mean, why don't we have a £5.50 note? I mean,
Yeah.
I must admit that with the inflation, things are rising rather a lot. And on that note, what do you think, listeners?